Well, Danny, you'll be an Emmy contender once again later this summer with Game Change, another political drama film that you did for HBO, and you were a nominee just a handful of years ago for Recount. What is it that draws you into these political type films?
Well, they're really fascinating stories, and they're really dramatic stories. You've got extremely high stakes. You've got the issues being dealt with being some of the most important issues in the country, and it just makes it very ripe for high drama. And with these particular projects, with Recount now with Game Change, I think what made Jay Roach and I think that there could be such a great movie with this subject matter is you also had fantastic characters. You had really great, fascinating personalities, some of them very larger than life, and all of them are in very, very dramatic, powerful, intense situations. And when you combine all that together, you just keep your fingers crossed that it'll make for a good movie.
You were nominated for an Emmy for Recount, and you won a Writers Guild Award for that as well, which would have been, a great thrill for you. What would it mean to you if this film was also recognised in the same way? What does it mean for a writer to win awards like that?
Well, for me, it's very gratifying. It's very exciting. You want to, kind of play it cool and act like, well, awards don't really matter. It's about the work. But the truth is that awards feel great. And I think everyone loves to be acknowledged. And particularly with the Writers Guild Award and with the Emmys, the Emmys, it's a very famous award. It's one of the most famous awards in the country, and certainly one of the highest awards you can win in my particular industry. So what could be more gratifying than to win an award like that?
That night at the ceremony, Jay wins for directing and the movie wins for Best TV Movie. What was your experience like for that Emmy Award ceremony?
Well, it was wonderful to see Jay win. I was so thrilled when the film won. I think I'd like to say that I wasn't disappointed at all when I didn't win, but of course it's a little disappointing because you want to win. But it was really great seeing all the producers get Emmys as well. It was, a lot of these people that I'd spent a lot of time with, and we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the projects, and to see people getting awards for it, and with all of our cast on Recount, so many of them were nominees. So it was a big, exciting night for everyone, I think, and to definitely go home with some statues for the team was really rewarding.
Well, it's very likely that Game Change is going to do very well at the Emmys. It could win for every major category that it's up for because it's such a high profile. What I'm wondering about with this project is that this story was so ripe for telling for TV and film, and this book was so high profile. So I'm just wondering how it came to you, and what was it about this particular book that made you really want to work on it?
Well, I had read the book when it came out just for fun, because I'm into political books and follow politics very closely, and it was a really high-profile book almost right away. I think it was a bestseller within the first week that it came out. So I read it like a lot of other political junkies, and I couldn't put it down. It was political candy. I think I read the whole thing in 3 days. It was such an amazing read. And I remember thinking about it as I was reading it, what would be the movie? There's so many different stories in this. How would you turn it into the movie? And I wasn't really sure as I was going through it. And then when I got to the Sarah Palin chapters, I thought, oh, wow, that's it. That's the movie right there. It just felt so dramatic. It felt so unique. Once again, you had these really wonderful characters. And most significantly, what we were experiencing behind the scenes, which is what the book took you through, was even more dramatic than what we lived through collectively in the country. So I just thought, wow, this movie would blow people away because people don't know the story behind the story, and the story behind the story is unbelievable. So, but then I forgot about it, and about 5 months later, Jay Roach called me, and he said, I'm doing Game Change with HBO. We've been trying to develop this Hillary versus Obama script that I wasn't a part of. And he said, we're not going to do that, and we're going to switch gears and try and do the Sarah Palin story from Game Change, and would you be interested in doing it? And I said, I read the book, I had the exact same experience that you guys are experiencing now. I thought that was where the movie was, and I literally said yes on the phone call to him.
When you're working on a project or deciding to do a project like this one, or even Recount, or I noticed where you got the Butler film, I guess, coming up down the road, feature film with Lee Daniels. What are your concerns when you're dealing with real life people as a writer?
Well, my concerns aren't so much dealing with real life people, because I know that I'm going to execute it in a way that is completely fair to them and to the events and to history. So my concern is more of, is there enough in the story that warrants a film? And then, if there are enough events that warrant a film, is the event important enough and significant enough that it deserves to be made into a movie? So there's a couple of factors there that set a pretty high bar. And after Recount, I would get phone calls all the time for almost any true life political event that happened that week. I would get some phone call saying, "Hey, do you think there's a movie here?" And my response was always, probably not. The funniest was when I got a call about the debt ceiling debate. There was this big debt ceiling battle, and I got a few phone calls because people were so angry with how it turned out. And I just said, I know you're angry, but give it 48 hours and call me back if you really think there's a movie in the debt ceiling debate. So it's one of those things where there just has to be a lot of events, and when it's all said and done, do these events add up to something that's important enough to be made into a film?
Yeah. Well, that being said, Danny, the Game Changing is actually really quite fair to the characters it portrays, and that's the surprising thing about it. It could have been a complete, scathing look at these particular people, but it wasn't. It really wasn't. And even though there was a conservative backlash and Sarah Palin probably had a few nasty things to say about it, I was really surprised by that. And I'm wondering how important it was for you and for Jay to make sure that you don't veer too much on one side or another.
Well, as far as the conservative backlash to Game Change, to be honest with you, it was an extremely minimal conservative backlash. The only backlash was amongst Sarah Palin's aides. And those are people who are on Sarah Palin's payroll. As far as the mainstream conservative press, the Washington Times, the Washington Examiner, Fox News, I felt that there was very little backlash to the film, and I think part of that was because of how fair the film was and how the film went to great pains to show you Sarah Palin's point of view and John McCain's point of view, and to let you walk in Sarah Palin's shoes for a little bit. And I think overwhelmingly we heard from critic after critic and pundit after pundit how the film was extremely sympathetic to Sarah Palin at times. And that was a major goal of the movie, was to tell her story, because that was a story that really hadn't been told. She's a very controversial figure, a very polarizing figure, but to be polarizing, you're not just hated, you're also loved. And there's millions and millions of people that love Sarah Palin, and we wanted to show that and show what they love about her and why she's able to become this huge figure, beloved figure, an important figure within the conservative movement. And to not have that in the movie would shortchange the dramatic potential of this really dynamic story. So it doesn't come from, we don't come from a partisan place when we're trying to put these films together. We come from a place of story and a place of drama. And how do you explore the story with as much depth and to fulfill the dramatic potential of the piece? And if you'll notice in both movies, Recount and Game Change, they're not partisan stories. Ultimately, the themes and the issues that are discussed are themes about the process of how we elect our presidents, which is not a partisan issue. It's an issue that I think both parties and people that aren't members of either party can relate to and explore.
As a writer, when these projects finally start getting cast, I mean, you've been extremely fortunate that on Recount, like, Kevin Spacey and Tom Wilkinson and Dennis Leary. On this one, you got Ed Harris and Woody Harrelson and Julianne Moore. I mean, what's it like as a writer to see actors of this caliber not only want to be a part of the project, but kind of breathing life into the words that you've written?
Yeah, it is amazing, the cast that we have been able to get for these two films. I know Jay Roach and I are both so grateful to have literally the best of the best, actor-wise, wanting to be in these movies. And it is unbelievable watching them on set day after day, doing take after take. I just can't begin to describe what it's like. I remember on Recount, it was the first time I'd ever been on set like that, in that capacity. We're spending literally every single day on set behind the camera, as opposed to in front of the camera, because I spent many years as an actor. And it was the most humbling acting class I think I'd ever been to, just watching Kevin Spacey do take after take, because he truly is a master, and Tom Wilkinson too. And then on Game Change, just seeing Julianne Moore and Ed Harris and Woody Harrelson sink their teeth into the material, and they all have very different techniques. They approach the work differently, and which was the same thing on Recount, where you had all these different actors approach the work differently, and it was just truly stunning, gratifying, humbling, and at the end of the day, really, really exciting to watch them do this work.
Governor, I admit that this is a dysfunctional campaign, but that is what I inherited, and I'm doing my level best to help us win this election.
And that's what I'm trying to do too, Stephen. All you're doing is screwing me up. That's all you've done this entire time is get in my way. And I am raising millions of dollars for this campaign. Hundreds of thousands of people are coming to see me speak. Not John McCain, God bless him. They are coming to see me. So if I am single-handedly carrying this campaign, I'm going to do what I want.
Well, speaking of acting, obviously you're so well known for being a character actor on various TV shows. Just from your face, people immediately say, "Oh, that's Jonathan from Buffy," and he's on Gilmore Girls, and he's on.
Or they ask me if they went to high school with me.
Yeah, exactly. It's just because it's that recognizability.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, so I was wondering, firstly, if you still get recognized on the street for your Buffy performance, given that Buffy fans will never let go of that show. And secondly, whether going forward you are happier in being a writer as opposed to being solely an actor.
Yeah, well, I do. I get recognized all the time from Buffy. I get recognized quite a bit from Gilmore Girls and now from Mad Men, actually, because that's sort of a much more current show, and people really love that show. I remember someone once asked me if it bothers me that people always refer to me as Jonathan from Buffy in articles on me as a writer. And my response is always, "What, are you kidding me? It's the coolest thing I got going, is that I was Jonathan from Buffy. Like, why would that bother me?" So no, I love it. I love having been a part of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I love, too, that it was a show that was, at least in the United States, it was sort of a cult show when it aired. It was not a mainstream show and not a mainstream hit, and now it's 10 years later, and the show feels bigger than it's ever been. New people come to it all the time, and they still love it, and it's so meaningful to them. So for me personally, it's really exciting to have been a part of that. And as far as the acting versus the writing, writing's definitely the focus of my energy now. I probably spend 95% of my creative energy on writing, and it's partly because I can just do it. I don't have to get hired for it. I don't have to wait for the phone to ring to start writing, and that's actually why I started writing in the first place, was to get my mind off of my audition and the ups and downs of the acting career. And I'm surprised and excited that it actually became the focus of my career. But I still love acting too. I've just become more selective as far as what I do as an actor, because I don't need to do it to pay the rent anymore. The writing pays the rent. So now it's just a matter of waiting for cool stuff to come along. And it's hard to get in cool stuff. Sometimes cool auditions come along, but then they don't want me. I don't get cast in the parts. So it's one of those things where it's a career that's really out of your control, unless you're Tom Cruise or at that highest of the highest level. So I just really focus on my writing, which is in my control much more so.
Well, something I mentioned earlier, that I'm really fascinated by this Butler project, which is going to be a feature film. Lee Daniels, who was Oscar nominated for Precious, is directing, and I guess co-wrote it with you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about it. And again, you're going to get an amazing cast. I think John Cusack and Forrest Whitaker and Jane Fonda are already cast, and IMDb has a bunch of other famous names that are like rumored to be in it. But what's it about? Tell me more about it.
Sure. So The Butler is a really, really exciting project. I really love the project, and it's about a White House butler over 35 years or so, from basically the Eisenhower administration to the Reagan administration. And it's the story of basically the civil rights movement through the eyes of an African-American butler in the White House. And Forrest Whitaker's playing the butler, Oprah Winfrey is playing his wife, and the great Lee Daniels, who just made, burst out of into the universe with Precious, this unbelievable film, although he'd been a very successful producer before that, is directing it. So I couldn't be more excited about the team and the cast, and we have all these just unbelievable actors playing the presidents. And it's a very, very exciting project, and I'm so thrilled it's actually getting made. You write a script like that, and you just don't know if someone's actually going to make it. It's very ambitious, thematically challenging, but it's a very inspiring, moving film. So the fact that we're actually going, I'm just through the roof over it. I believe we start shooting in July and August, and it'll be released in 2013. I'm not really sure when, but because it's more of a drama, which those usually come out in the fall and the winter. But you never know.
It has Christmas Oscar season written all over it, I think, just based on
Fingers
whatever.
crossed. I sure hope so.
You might be an Emmy winner and an Oscar winner all within like an 18-month period.
Oh, please, from your mouth. I just wish you were in control of this all and you could single-handedly
We
take it
are.
out.
Rob and I pull all the strings for all these award shows, so we'll make that happen for you.
Yeah, perfect. If you could throw a Tony in there, too, then we could call it a trifecta. And I could
We'll write a song and we'll just get you the whole EGOT experience.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Well, that being said, Danny, good luck with the Emmys coming up in the next couple of months, and really well done on Game Changer. It was such an enjoyable film for so many people, and thanks for your time today.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to throw out there, too, how just like a big thank you to HBO for making the damn movie. It's unbelievable that they made the film, and it's very brave of them, and they just totally got behind it. So it was very, very cool, and yeah, we're all excited.